Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be showing you the start to finish process of how I made the weapons room and study for Excel Chapter 10. So without further ado, let's get started. For the floor, I used a thin cardboard. And for the walls, I used foam board. I measured the walls to be 21 centimeters tall. And drew a line going across. I then cut them. And prop up the walls. I measure and cut the walls to the desired length. Once that was done, it was time to start. I indented a cobblestone pattern on one of them off camera, on both sides. I then repeated this process for all of them. For the side walls, however, they needed a wood bottom. So I measured every centimeter and drew a line. Once that was done, I indented all the lines going down. I then started the cobblestone pattern. I then indented every single brick. I then repeated this process on the other walls. This wall had to be double-sided. To create this, I then set up the walls to see how it would look. Once I was happy, it was time to paint. I started painting the side walls, using brown paint to look like wood. Repeated it for the other wall. Once they were nearly dry, I indented wood markings into the foam board. Once that was done, it was time to paint the cobblestone grey. I then repeated this for all of the walls. Once the walls were painted, it was time to dry brush them with black. Dry brushing is when you have a little bit of paint on your paintbrush and you paint over the surface, getting into all the nooks and crannies to bring out the depth. Now that all the painting is done, it is time to work on the floor. For the floor, I found a cobblestone vinyl paper, unrolled it, measured it to its length, and I cut off the excess. I then removed the paper from the enjoy my suffering.
Nice.
Once the floor is finally covered, I cut and folded over the hanging off edges, and the floor was done. To get an idea of where I am, I set up the walls. To make the doors, I used large popsicle sticks, cut off the round edges. For each door, I glued 4 large popsicle sticks together. To neaten up the doors, I used wooden dowels. On each side. I repeated this for the other door. I then used cut-offs of the wooden dowels, cut the edges, and glued them to the side of the door to act as metal, holding the door together. I then glued them down on both sides of the door. I then used stick-on gems to act as rivets. Looks quite silly now, doesn't it? I then used a charm, cut it to the desired size, glued it to the door, and this acts as the hinges. I then repeated it on all the doors. To get this, now it's time to make the handles. I used jump rings and another gem. I put the gem first and the jump ring last, so it looks like there's handles attached to the door. Kind of looks like diamond rings. I then repeated for all of the doors. To get the final design of the doors, I repeated this to make a third door, and began painting them brown. Once they were painted, I then used black paint to bring out the details. To make the doors functional, I used a large wooden dowel, glued it to the side, painted it black, and now the doors can open and close. I placed the doors on the cobblestone wall. I traced around them and cut where the doors will fit in later. I then set up the room and glued all the walls together and added in the doors and added detail around the doors. I then made shields and spears off camera, glued them to the back of the shields, to make wall details. I then added in all the props I made, and the weapon room was finished. Using paper, I plan out the study. I first begin with the accent wall. I take a square of foam board, a little piece, glue it on the bottom to make it the desired length. I paint it beige, and the accent wall is finished. I then dry brush it with black. I then move on to the bookshelves. I use large popsicle sticks to make them. I cut off the round edges and cut the popsicle sticks to the desired length and glue them together. Once both bookshelves are finished, I paint them brown. I then begin work on making the fireplace. I use a combination of large popsicle sticks and foam board. I cut all the pieces to the desired lengths and glue them together. Once I'm happy with the design, I paint it black. I then put the fireplace and the wall together and paint the back black. I then make 4 more accent walls, painting them beige, and dry brushing them black. I make 2 windows out of thin cardboard and line them with skinny sticks. I paint the windows brown . And the window panes white. I then create a shelf to hold scrolls and books. Again, cutting the wooden dowels to desired lengths, gluing them together, painting them brown, to get this. Then I make a desk for the study, using thin cardboard. I paint the desk brown, And it's finished. I plan out where everything needs to go. Once I'm happy, it's time to start the props. Off camera, I print, cut out, and fold a bunch of books. I take the book cover, glue it into white foam board, cut off the excess, and you get a mini book. I then repeat this a bunch of times. I then make 6 extra mini books, repeating the same process to make them. I then use paper, roll it up, I cut off the excess, and cut the paper to the desired length to make scrolls. I then repeat to fill up the shelves. Curtains using wooden dowels and fabric, making sure to glue the fabric around the wooden dowel that it still moves. Like this. I then print out some mini letters and cut them out. And add them into the set. And this is what it looks like so far. I then made a world map of Exiled, and the set was finished. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one. This is Winter Studios, signing off.